sitting right at the top of the hour. So we're going to go ahead and just start. And if others trickle in, they'll trickle in as we go. Just to kind of get started, I always take the first few minutes and kind of want to explain to guys who I am, who I'm not, kind of set the framework of where we're coming from in this next 30 minutes we'll spend together. My name's Tom Woods with a company called R2 Sports Technology. We're located out here in Colorado, just a little bit south of Denver. I am not a football coach. I have never coached football. I don't aspire to coach football. I don't anticipate ever coaching football. I am a career data person, for lack of a better word. So I started a company about almost 25 years ago that does a lot of work in the aerospace and defense industry with data. We've done a lot of work with places like Lockheed Martin and NASA and Boeing and places like that. But for about the last 10 years, we've been working with football programs, as odd as that seems. So we ran into some football coaches and they showed us what they were doing with film data. And we said, man, there's a whole lot of things we do with data. We could do some stuff with that. And so we started working with football programs about 10 years ago. We've since branched off. We do a lot of work in the world of finance. I mentioned aerospace and defense, football, that stuff. Anyway, so everything I'm going to share with you in the time we have together today is coming from a data person's perspective. So always keep that in the back of your mind, a little grain of salt back there. Is I recognize that there's data and what a data person might look at something in the world of football and what a football coach who lives and dies and breathes it sees can be two totally different things. And I respect that difference. So we defer, man, in times of question, I defer to the coach because your job is not to be a data guy. Your job is to win football games and to help young guys go execute a plan and win a football game. And hopefully become a better person in the process somehow. That's usually the plan. So understand that we're gonna share some things, and where I kind of think like I'm like, boy, I could see that this is a data guy's perspective, not a coach's perspective. I'll kind of highlight it, but just know we always defer to coaches. We have a lot of respect for what the coaching profession does and how hard that is. So our hope is that we can take data and help it be successful. Toward that, so that's one thing. Second thing, just to address kind of the elephant in the room, I appreciate you guys coming and spending some time with us this morning. But know this, R2 Sports Technology is a for-profit business. It is. But this is not a veiled sales pitch. We're not going to get to the end of this. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, okay, for only $19.95, you can do X, Y, and Z. That's not the intent of this. We work with football programs. We love working with football programs. If you found something of interest, we'd love to work with your football program. But that's not what this is going to end in. So I just want to hopefully disarm you there a little bit. I'm not going to come at you with some offer or price tag or anything like that at all. So the intent of our time together today, hopefully, is that when we're done, whether we ever cross paths again, you've taken something, logged it away, and it can help you be better at what you're trying to get done. So enough of me, John, on that. I'm going to share just kind of a couple bookkeeping things here. When we're done today, we're going to walk through a set of notes and kind of build it up as we go. We're going to spend some time. We're going to spend the first 10 minutes or so talking about kind of some things that are a little bit more theoretical, and then we're going to get real practical, real like Excel messy. So it's kind of two things. We talk about what the theory is and how you actually put it into practice. When we're done, if you want those notes, we can send you those notes. There's recordings of this if you want to go back and see it again. And we also have like a template of data. So if you're interested in all that stuff, we can get it to you after the fact. So just keep that in mind. Let me go ahead and share my screen here and we'll kind of get rolling. So we do a couple sessions each springtime. So this one happens to be a new topic for us that we've been working with guys. Our topic today is all about how you optimize your spring football data. Okay, now, and I don't use it too loosely because right now our college, the people we work with and at the college level, it's all about spring football. They finished their season, they recruited, and now it's spring ball, spring ball, spring ball. The same principles we talk about here apply to any off-season work, whether it's summertime, anything you're doing that's not in season. So what we've seen a lot with the people we work with over time, so there tends to be a disconnect between what's going on in this time of year and what's going on week one come September 1st. Okay. So the world of September through November looks very much while everybody's a little bit different, it looks very much the same for everybody who's out there doing things, right? You're getting film on your opponent, you're breaking things down, you're looking at down, distance, formation, plays, all this stuff, and you're game planning to win, right? And your team has a certain identity. You're trying to be really good at the things you do. It's all about very literal X's and O's data and winning. And then you get to this time of the year, and it tends to be more of a kind of the wild west of data. Everybody's doing something a little bit different. If you're the Ohio States of the world, you have obvious advantages because you're filming every rep that happens in a spring practice. You have tons of people around that can go through and look at all that and get information, which is great. If you are at a high school level or a D2, D3 level, you probably don't have all those resources. And so this data, what data looks like in the offseason gets really kind of crazy. Some people are using their film systems to catch data, but many are not. Some are not taking any data. Some have got a yellow sheet of paper and are like jotting down notes. So it's crazy. So the intent of what we were talking about today is how we leverage and make what's happening now directly applicable to what's happening come week one. Because what we see a lot of teams do is it's almost like the first 2 or 3 weeks of a season is almost like this feeling out period of finding out what we can and can't do. Are we any good? Are we not? What can we pull off? And if you're only playing 10, 11, maybe 12 games a year, you can't afford to take a quarter of your season to figure out who you are. Especially, I mean, if you're a college program, you can't. There's only a few Georgias and Ohio States. Everybody else is trying to get to 6 wins so they can get to a bowl game and save their jobs, right? So you don't have time to mess around. What the intent of this whole session is to help you draw a very discrete line through what's happening in the offseason and who you want to be in the fall, so that you can come into week one, you already know what to expect. You already know if you're going to be any good or not. You already know if Joe can be used in this situation or not. Okay. We don't want to find that out in the season. We want to know ahead of time. So that's the whole principle behind it. Let's talk for a second on a couple key things. And again, this is just kind of theoretical to start, and then we'll shift into real mechanical messiness, if you will. We encourage guys all the time. You got to, and this is kind of what I've been saying here for the last couple of minutes. You got to work backwards from week one. Who do you want to be? What's your identity? What are you trying to accomplish in the fall? If you're an offensive coordinator and you might be saying, listen, hey, here's what I believe we are. We're a run heavy team, and I want to be an inside zone killer, inside zone concept running type of team. Okay. If we understand who it is that we expect to be and want to be and believe we can be in the fall come week one, we need to work backwards from there. And as an act of very specific intent, make sure that what's happening in the spring of the offseason program is wired up in a way where I can draw a very discrete real line, if you will. I can connect the dots between this drill or this scrimmage or this thing I'm doing in the spring and why I'm doing it directly to the fact that I want to be a great inside zone running team. I got to connect the dots between them. And we're going to show you how to literally do that in a second. But connecting those dots is very important. We have to understand who do we want to be, and very intentionally design what's happening in the offseason to support that. Okay. It's connecting the dots. Second, if you're going to connect the dots, okay. So we just talked in a second, you have in-season types of data, right? You have data you collect in season. I'm sure you guys can kind of resonate with what that usually looks like for you. When you're breaking down film on your next opponent, you're capturing things that are related to situational stuff, right? You're getting downs and distances and field positions. You might be catching what hash you're on. You're recording what kind of things you're doing. We running or passing? Are we in a cover 2 or a cover 1? Are we blitzing? Are we not blitzing? All those, the way you think in the fall, you have to connect that to what you're doing in the spring. Okay. To do that, the data you have in the fall and the data you're going to capture in the spring, if you're going to connect, this is where this is just purely a data guide. This would be the same comment if I was talking to people in the medical profession or the oil and gas profession or a football coach. If you have 2 different pieces of data and you need to connect them, you have to have consistency in language, terminology, and structure. So the way you define and call things over here in the fall, which is really where the rubber meets the road. I want to win games. I got to beat this guy in the fall. Then if I'm going to do things over here in the spring, I need to use the same kind of verbiage. I at least need to have a translator that says, okay, I'm doing these actions in the spring. These correlate into these over here. Okay. Consistency. Call things the same thing all the time. Now, the third thing, big thing in connecting data, and this is a kind of a big, I think this is a general misconception that we see all the time with coaches. when it comes to data, simplicity is almost always better than complexity. And I think a lot of times guys tend to think that the more detailed I am in my breakdown, the more complex, the more, nitty gritty details I break down, the smarter I am. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. If you have the time and the detail to go get detailed information, it's not a bad thing. If you can get it, get it. But sometimes people skip what's in between and go straight to too much detail, thinking that that's what'll be the key. The problem is this: the more specific you get, the harder it is to pick up on trends and patterns in data. And it's because if you get too specific, the sample size, the number of times something happens, shrinks really small. So if I start caring more about breaking down specific play names, I'm going to have a bunch of play names, but I'm not going to have any of them that happen more than 5 or 6 times, maybe. Okay. Because I've got too specific. So the way you need to approach this is you need to think conceptually. Think conceptually, think contextually, we say all the time. So instead of getting too detailed, you're far better off from a data standpoint of understanding what is and isn't working, of capturing things at a higher level concept. So instead of getting specific play names or a specific blitz type, right? I also see a lot of guys on the defensive side, they got all these exotic blitzes with unique names, right? Instead of that, you're better off just reporting blitz, yes or no, or blitz direction, left, right, middle. That level, there's enough sample size at those levels we can pick up patterns. You get too specific, you lose the ability to identify a pattern. So think conceptually, and then we're going to show you here in a second when you lay this out. When you think about who you're going to be in the fall, just think at that concept level. Boom, 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 boom. Don't get too specific. Okay. When we say think contextually, think about what are the things that you as a coach care about in game, right? There's key situational things for you. Think about the guys, they hold their call sheets up, and those call sheets basically have these, they have, well, you don't need me telling you, I don't work with call sheets, you guys do, but you have these categories on those call sheets, right, that define something to you. Here's a situation, here's a goal line situation, here's what I care about in that section, here's a first and a long backed up situation. Whatever those boxes are that works in your mind in terms of how you view the game, that's the kind of thing you want to be thinking about as you do your spring practice. Think about a category in your call sheet. Am I doing drills and activities that have a direct relationship to this unique situation? If this guy's good at this, this should tell me I can pretty safely use him over here. Okay. So think context and think concepts. Lastly, on grading, because we always think about, you have to have some measure of what good or bad looks like in the off season. All right. And that's in season, it gets easier, right? Because we're looking at down and distance and gain, and was that a good or a bad play? In the spring, when you're doing a drill or a scrimmage, it's not quite that clean, but you have to have some measure of what good or bad looks like. But from a grading standpoint, keeping it simple, we encourage guys all the time, just pass fail grading is best. Some of these guys get like, well, was that a 3.5 or a 2.5 or a 3? You're better off just saying pass fail. And we say in parentheses there, it says binary grading. From a data guy's perspective, it's always easier to work with numbers instead of letters in the world of data. So from a pass fail standpoint, we encourage guys all the time, pass is 1, fail is 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, just a binary 1 or a 0. So you want a grade thing, because if you do that, then you can very quickly see what this guy's average grade is. All right, so we're going to jump out of this. Enough theory. Let's look at some practical things here for a second. But again, just to kind of recap, we're thinking that the key here is there's an identity I have for who I want to be on week 1. I need an off-season program that supports that. I got to connect the two together. So I need commonality in my language and terminology. I need a line I can draw between them. And I need to keep it simple. I need to think conceptually, contextually, and simple pass-fail grading. Okay. Now, how do we actually structure and collect data? This is kind of the first kind of Captain Obvious thing. I'll say, I think I'm a little Captain Obvious too much sometimes, but again, given that what happens in the spring tends to be kind of the Wild West of things, with some guys have a little bit of data over here in Excel, and this guy's got some on a yellow pad, and Ohio State's got everything in their thousands and thousands of dollar system, right? For most guys, just capturing and holding data in Excel is going to be plenty great, fine for you. Okay. The key is this: if you can set up a master Excel file that holds all your data, that's kind of the key. What happens is You'll get the wide receivers coach over here, and he did some drills, and he caught a few things. He wrote a few things down on a piece of paper. And you've got the O-line coach over here, and he's into data, so he's got an Excel file. And you've got this guy over here who's the linebackers coach who can't even turn a computer on, and he just is going by his gut, how he feels, right? So you get this wild mismatch of all this stuff going on. As the leader of the program, a single repository where people are saying, hey, listen, if you want to keep things on your yellow sheet of paper, great, I don't care. But at some point, you got to have somebody come in here and get it into this file. Just enter your data here. We need to capture it in a single location if we possibly can, okay? And we'll give you a template for this here in a second. I'm going to rattle through these, and we're going to open Excel and look at it for a second. This is probably the biggest thing, and this is something that is not, I would hazard a guess that this is not something that's commonly done by many coaches at all. And it's kind of a mouthful. It's just the data guy and me getting too wordy. But we encourage you guys to build what we call a spring practice correlation matrix. Okay, what this is, and it's a big fancy word. It's kind of like, okay, did you really have to call it that? Here's the key. I mentioned to you again, we want to connect data. We want to connect what's happening in the spring with what we want to be in the fall. So to do that, what we do in Excel is we're going to cross-reference the two. We're going to cross-reference who we want to be in the fall with the things we're doing in the spring. And we're going to literally come through and connect the wires in an Excel file and say, hey, this activity over here specifically relates to boom, boom, and boom of who I want to be. Okay. We're going to cross-reference the two in a very literal, specific way. What that does, even the very act of doing that, okay, even if you fail to collect data at all spring, the act of doing that alone would do most coaches a massive world of good. Because too often, and it's not just coaches, we do it everywhere in life, we do what we do because that's what we do. And we fall into that trap. We're just on autopilot doing what we do. And here comes the spring program. So we'll roll out the ball and go run 100 and, we do our thing. But sometimes we lose sight of the intent of, hey, this needs to be very intentionally designed to support who we're going to be on week one. And forcing yourself to think that way sometimes says, we can just get rid of this garbage. It's a waste of time. Or we might look and say, we don't have anything that supports what we're going to be. We got to put something in here. Okay. So we'll look at that here in just one second. Finally, keep it simple. So this is probably the biggest disconnect between data guy and football coach. And I come in acknowledging it because I can only appreciate how difficult this would be. But you got to keep it simple. But in a perfect world, you want to collect data on every rep. Now, I know that seems like, oh, you are insane. You have to coach, right? So you can't do it. You're a coach. You're not a data guy. You're not a data collector. You're a football coach. So you got to be a football coach. But you got to find others who want to be a part of your program or help, student assistants, whoever it might be. You coach, but you got to get a scribe, if you will. Someone that's there who is attached to the wide receivers coach. And they're running their exercises and drills, and he's just tagging. Maybe he's tagging on a yellow sheet of paper. Dink, 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 reps, boom, boom, boom. Capture it. If you capture it, then so this is the crux of the whole thing. If you capture data and we see a connection to who we want to be in the fall, then what we're going to be able to do is know at any point in time if we're ready or not. We're not going to come in. It's not going to be week 3 until we figure out, oh man, we can't run inside zone. We're going to know August 20th. When our first game is September 1st, we're going to know already, man, we can't do that. Or only this guy can. And I'm not going to go in and waste 3 weeks trying to figure it out. Okay. Now, let's get out of here for a second. I will make this last comment. Sample size. It's a big one when you think about what you're doing in the spring. This is just another pure data perspective here. There's a magic number in the world of sample size from a statistical standpoint, in the world of statistics and data. And that magic number is 30. If you think about, you've seen the bell curve, the normal distribution of things. Normal behavior starts to reveal itself after sample size gets to 30 and above. So I only say that to you so as you're working through your off-season program and you're working through scrimmages and reps and drills and things like that, being conscious of a number that gets past that is important. If I want to understand if this kid can really do something or not, I probably really can't safely, definitively make the assumption or draw a conclusion necessarily, unless he's had 30 plus chances to try it. Okay. you get a kid that rolls out there and he's hot and he goes 9 for 10 successful on his first 10 reps, you're like, this dude is killer, right? Maybe. Let's see if he's 27 of 30 or not, or if he's really 20 of 30. Okay, so it has to reveal itself over time. Keep that number just in the back of your mind. All right, let's get out of this. Let's look at Excel for a second. Now, again, this is a template we'll send you if you want to use it kind of as a model. But this is how we encourage people to start addressing and thinking about capturing data in the off season. And it starts with what I just mentioned a second ago, this correlation matrix, we call it. Again, what we do here is this. On the left side over here, you'll see things like there's certain categories of our offense. Like right here, I've got, let me just highlight this in a different color just so you can see a little better. Like right in here, here's some stuff about our run game, right? Who we are as a running team. And we list concepts. So here are running concepts. Here's what are our different running concepts we're going to use this year. We're going to do some inside zone, outside zone. We're a big counter team. We might do jet sweeps, draws, things like that. Concepts, not specific play names. But hey, this is the running game section, and here are the concepts that we employ in the running game. So down the left-hand side of this, we're putting in who we are, who we want to be, who we're going to be in the fall in different categories. So here's running game stuff. Here's things in the passing game. We're going to be, we want to do quick passes, wide receiver screens, play action passing. We're just putting categories of the concepts of the way we view our actual offense or defense in the actual season. Pass defense, here's cover 1, cover 2, cover 3. So vertical axis, here's who we are conceptually, here's who we want to be, okay? At the top, horizontally, we start listing the types of activities we engage in the off season, our spring activities. So scrimmage types, drills. This is a 5-on-5. This is a 7-on-7. This is a specific wide receiver drill. And we got like 6 or 7 or 8. There could be literally, and there could be hundreds of these things off to the right, theoretically. These are all these different, I just got some dummied in things here. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But these are the types of activities we engage in our off-season program. Then what you do is you just put an X in the box. You cross-reference everything. So if I'm looking at this, here's this certain scrimmage, this activity E that we do. This might be some certain type of speed drill you do with your wide receivers or something, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to challenge myself to look through that and go down that column and say, okay, what does that, if somebody's good at this here, well, what's the intent of this? What should this help me be in the fall? This is now taking the wire of what's going on here in the spring. I'm taking that wire, I'm pulling it over here. I'm looking at my program. I find out where can I connect it. This is connecting the wires. And I'm looking here, I'm saying, you know what? We do this because that's part of us being a really good jet sweep type of team. This drill, and it could apply to many different things, but we just want to hit the ones where, yes, if they're good at this and if we're successful at this, that's in line with us being a good jet sweep type of team. So we go down the list and we check them off. It's good for second and long. It's, good against this situation, that situation. We just go right down the column of each thing we have planned and we put a check in the box for where it applies. Now, that's why I said, even if you don't do anything with data, that action will make you better. Because what happens sometimes is you might have a certain drill in here and you go down the list and you're looking at it and you're racking your brain. And you're like, I can't find a spot it really applies to. So if that's the case, then why are we doing it? It may be just a kind of a waste of time. Or if you have limited time and resources and you find that you have, this one only applies to one thing, but this one over here is similar to it and it hits on 3 or 4 things and I can only do one of them, well, do the one that has a better impact for you. But going down the list, it'll tell you, hey, is what I have planned impactful enough or not? And if it's not, we're going to make a change to make it impactful enough. Secondarily, if you look at who you want to be in the spring or in the fall, like here's my inside zone running game, and I go across that row and I don't see any X's in any boxes, then I'm like, man, I don't know if I mean, we want to be really good at this, but I can't really put my finger on anything we're doing in the spring that is intentionally there to help that be better. And if that's not there, then you obviously have a hole. Then you need to fill that in. You need to find a drill and do that kind of thing and include it so that you are addressing this part of who you expect to be in the fall. Okay. So this type of a matrix is really big. If you can build it, then it's gonna kind of filter through your stuff and tighten everything up and say, hey, this is going to make us address the off-season program with far more intent than we might be doing already. Okay, so that's one. Now, what we then, I mentioned to you earlier, what we love to do is get everybody's data consolidated into one location. So even if people are collecting it in different ways, paper, phone, whatever, eventually we wanted to get it into here. So what we recommend is for all these different things that you have going on, you create a tab for each one. It's like, here's scrimmage exercise A, it'd have a tab. And in that tab, what we're trying to collect from a rep by rep basis, if possible, you want to capture the date, who it was, and the simple pass fail grade. If it's, I mean, I don't want to be, I don't know, again, there are certain things that may not be, they may not be gradable theoretically. This may not apply to everything you do in the spring. I get that, right? You know, some things you might just be a team building exercise and it's not really graded. I get that. But for certain elements of it that we're trying to develop players in, we should be able to say, was this a pass or a fail? The importance of capturing the date is really big, because if we capture data like this, we'll show you in a second, you can then start to see, you can see performance over time. And you should see from the beginning of your offseason program to the end of your offseason program, you should see growth. You should see improvement in scoring. You should see people getting better. If it's flatlined, then it's like, okay, I don't know, we didn't get any better. We spent some time together. I don't think we're any better. If it goes down, you're like, my Lord, they're better off if we don't coach. So it can challenge you sometimes. It's an evaluator for how your guys are doing, your level of preparation for the season. And honestly, it's an evaluation. It's a look in the mirror as coaches to say, are we getting it done? Well, they should be getting better if we're coaching well. All right. So it's as simple as that. It's dates. And again, this might be a student assistant or a volunteer or somebody who's just out there helping tag data. Boom, 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 boom. Now, okay, so if mechanically, again, this is what the kind of thing we're, and again, we'll send this to you if you want to look at it or use it or work off of there. It's nothing really magic about it, but it's this active intent. I'm going to do something in the off season. It needs to correlate to who I'm going to be in the fall. In the most literal way, this kind of a file right here will make that happen and will tell you if you're ready or not. Now, if you can, so the last thing here, and we're almost done because we're almost out of time. I'm gonna show you a couple things, and if you want to stick around for a few minutes, we can, but we will. I'm pretty religious about trying to be on time. The last thing then, if you have data, so you structure data in a way to support all of that, and if you actually collect data to support all that, then there's things you can do. Then it's all about how you leverage that data, how you use that data to see things and do things better. Now, this is the way you package data matters a lot. We build things that are called dashboards. And again, I'm not pushing a sales thing. I'm trying to show you what it can look like. A dashboard is a way of tapping into raw data, if you have it, and creating a visual picture of it so you can better understand it. Okay. So if you're able to set up a structure like this where you capture it and can correlate it, you can begin to do things like this. Let me just give you a quick example. This is an example of some spring data. Just kind of working from that example we have. The key behind a dashboard, we try and use, you try and make a visual picture of data. And you do that with size and color. That's kind of how it works. So like you see all these players over here, you see color generally. Color is telling us our average grade. So if our grading average, like if someone's averaging like 20% success rate on their grades, that's obviously bad. So the color scale is going to be deep, dark red down there. But if a guy's really good, he's like 75+% effective and good with his grading, he becomes green. So it's like this temperature scale almost. So I can start to see very quickly who's doing good, bad, otherwise. I can see different drills and scrimmages and what our average grades are across those. Like this drill down here, we're just not doing well with. We either need to coach it up better. This drill B teams, the guys are doing much better on this than they're doing down here. I can see that easier. Instead of trying to piece data together, you can start to see it. You can see this time phasing up here. This is for all activities here. You can see the average grade for this team by each day of practice. So I can see if I'm kind of flatlining here. Started to do better, and I had a bad day yesterday. So I can start to see this kind of stuff over time phasing. But the big thing down here, you see the structure down here. This is where you can start to get a connection between the fall and the spring. So like we talked, like here's, take down here. Let's look at the run game. I think I have it in here somewhere. What's not showing up? Let's look at, well, we can look at pass defense. So here, this again, this is something we care about for the fall. We care about certain blitz types and coverage types, like cover one, cover two, cover three. These coverages are things we care about in the fall. What we're seeing here is we're seeing that the different drills that we're doing that apply to that. And so if I want to see, like, here's our play action passing game. There's like two different things that apply to it. If I want to see, okay, how's my play action passing game coming along? Who I want to be in the fall. If I just click on it, it'll isolate all that in the data. So now I'm looking at, here's all of our scrimmages and exercises and things that should help us be a better play action passing team. And here's our average scores. We're not doing so great on it. We're flatlining here. Things aren't really doing well, but Nolan and James specifically are doing great. But Todd and Beasley and Fletcher, man, every time we're doing drills that have anything to do with play action passing, they can't get it done. Now, me seeing that's huge because I can start to understand that. I can start to, as I progress through my spring system, my spring program, I'm thinking, how do I help these guys catch up? And these guys are separating themselves and clearly becoming the guys that are, hey, if I'm going to have success in the play action passing game, Nolan and James need to be a part of what we're doing. I don't need to find that out week 3. I can know that weeks, months before a season even gets started, right? I can look at it maybe in a defensive situation. Here's goal line situations. Like on this one, I can click on that. Look at what are our goal line drills looking like? Well, look at this. This trending is showing some good stuff. We're getting better. We're improving generally. It's going up. That's good. That means the way we're coaching this up is good. They're doing better. A lot more green scores in here. That's good. I'm seeing progress. I'm not leaving it to chance and hoping that the wind blows the right way come the fall and that everything works out. I know already. I can see it. But again, I know we got to wrap here. The biggest thing is, I think what we see most of the time is it's not there's when I say this, the intent is there to obviously be great. Don't misunderstand. But I think that there's a lack of intentional action to help that happen sometimes in the spring. Sometimes we just let it be what it's going to be. And if we can just tweak our mind a little bit to think, okay, no, we're going to do something. We get this a little bit of time with these guys. We're going to make sure that what we do structured, I'm going to make sure I got a real clear line from this to week 1. And if I can capture data that way, man, I'm going to be ahead of my competition because he's probably over there just rolling the ball out and he's going to go figure himself out. I want to go out to week 1 and I want to know already. I want to know who I am already. And I want to trounce the guy who's figuring himself out. That's the key. It's about being intentional with data. So listen, I appreciate you guys taking time. Again, what we'll do, we'll send you those notes. If you're interested, we can send you that template. If you want to just, there's nothing magic to it. If you want it just as a prompter in your mind, if you want to play around with it, by all means, if you can take it and run with it, great. We do have other sessions on this. We have one other session coming up the first week of March. We can send you some information on that. That's a little bit different topic. That's kind of more global about breaking down film. If you're interested in that, you can certainly come to that. If you certainly don't have to. If you want to for a second, this file here. This is what we call a dashboard. This actually has an in-season version of a dashboard. I'll take 2 or 3 minutes if you want to look at it. If you have to go, by all means, go. We're done. We'll hit you with that stuff. If you want to stick around for a second, I'll show you what this is real quick in case it rings a bell. Not rings a bell, but necessarily maybe strikes a chord with you. We work with a lot of teams in the offseason. They send us data all the time, and we can send them stuff like we get guys all the time sending us like their offensive data from last year and doing self-scouts and giving them tools to help them understand what's going on. Just real quick, I'll if you want to see it, I'll just explain this for one quick second. This is an in-season dashboard. This is now we're week 1, 2, 3. We're in a season, and we're capturing real data about who we are, down, distance, hash, all that kind of real live bullet stuff, right? What a dashboard does, again, it's all about communicating a story visually. So we use the dimensions of size and color to tell a story on a team. You see over here, you see the football field and all these dots. Each one of these dots, I think this is actually a high school somewhere. Probably, I don't know. Probably in Texas. Maybe it's one of you guys. I don't know. So every dot is a play that they ran last year. A blue is a pass. A dark gray dot is a running play. A big dot means a big gain. A little dot means a little gain. So I'm using size, color to tell a story. But you see all these other sections over here, like this is, we call these data grids. You see this one section right here where it's set for offensive formation. So you can come into any field you have in your data and you can plot something basically in one of these grids. but this is showing formations. The way you interpret what you see in a grid, again, size and color, size and color, size and color. The size of a box tells you the frequency of occurrence. So if it's a big box, that means it happened a lot. And if it's a little box, it didn't happen very much. So it's kind of strength of tendency for a team. So this is a team's offense. The biggest box in here, they're close. These two are close, but the biggest box is this double tight box, which tells me that they ran from double tight formation more than any other formation last year. Now, I don't even know who they are. I don't even know where they are. I certainly didn't watch them, right? But a dashboard, this is kind of the point of a dashboard, it should scream that story at you. I know that they operate from double tight a lot. I know they very rarely operate from tank slot EO because that's a small box. Small box didn't happen very much. Big box happens a lot. So I don't have to know anything. We used to do this all the time. My young daughter, who's now not as young as she used to be, she could come in, she could have a meaningful discussion with the head coach of this team as an 8-year-old, because she'd tell him, you go double tight a lot. And she wouldn't even know what that means, but she could read. Right. So it should be that simple to get that story out. Color tells you offensive efficiency, offensive success rate. So we kind of, as a default, we don't have to use a default. We can use anybody's assessment, but by default, on first down, if you get 4 yards or more, it's a good play. Less than 4 is not. Second down, if you get more than half of what's to go, it's good. Less than half is not. Third, fourth down, if you convert, is good. Otherwise, it's not. And this is an example of another of these 1-0 binary things. So we average all that and we assign color to it. So if an offense is performing very poorly, it's going to be red. And if the offense is very efficient and good, it's going to be blue. And it's yellow's better than red, and green's better than yellow, and blue's better than green. With those 2 dimensions alone, I know so much about this team now. So without ever having seen them play, they run from double tight a lot, and they're pretty good. But I know if they run from pro or tray, they're not very good. And I know that because the color is telling me. They're only 30, like when they operate from pro, 39% efficient and 2.7 yards of play. When they operate from under, 68 and 7.7. It's vastly different. I could see that in a heartbeat. Here's plays over here. So, and now, real quick, what you can do is you can click on anything and filter right here live in real time. So if I look at how they're doing from double tight, let's look at pro, where they're not very good. If I click on pro, it's going to isolate everything in the data. And now we're looking at every play they ran from pro. And you can see from pro, they weren't good. They were 86% run. They were terrible on first down. Look at these plays. The only play they could really hurt you with of any significance is their Bengal play. So Bengal play had some success from pro, but they like this play Bills. Apparently they like this play. Look at this play Bills. When they run it from pro, 31% success rate, 1.6 yards per play. Terrible, but it's the biggest box. Well, kid offensive coordinators all the time. Big red boxes get offensive coordinators fired because it means it doesn't work and you keep doing it. You got to see that and stop doing that. You can't run Bills from pro. But what he could do, if I click on this, is to back up. They obviously like Bills. It's their most popular play we'll see over here. It's the biggest box in the plays. If I click on Bills just alone, this will show me every time they ran Bills. And I can, I can instantly see, look at that right there. You can't run it from pro. 1.6 yards of play from pro, 13.6 from under. It's like, okay, why? How come you ran it from pro more than under? Usually that happens not because the coach is an idiot. He's not. It's a football coach. You know what I'm saying? He didn't know. He just didn't know. The data is there, but a dashboard lets you get it into a platform where even a schmuck like me out here in Colorado who has no idea where this guy even is, in 5 seconds can tell him, man, don't run Bills from pro. Okay. If you want to run something from pro, you got to run Bengal. Or just stop running from pro because you can't do anything from pro. But that's something that can be seen. That's the principle behind a dashboard. If that strikes a chord with you at all, by all means, you can feel we'll send you this information too. Like if you have data from your last season, you want to send it, we're happy to put one in, send it back to you, no charge. You can go play around with it, see if you can learn something on yourself from that. But listen, guys, thank you so much for taking time. If you have questions, I'm happy to stick around at all. Otherwise, we'll send you some of this stuff. Again, we're doing a couple more of these sessions that are on a different topic coming up at the beginning of March. Welcome to join those too. But But thank you guys very much for taking the time and spending a little time with us this morning. We appreciate it. Take care,
Thanks
guys.
so much for the time. I appreciate it.
You bet.